Hi, this is Katie Davis, online editor for Cordell Cordell and DadsDivorce. Today we are speaking with best-selling author and motivational speaker, Honoree Corder. She is known for her books like The Successful Single Dad and The Successful Single Mom. Recently, she published her latest book, If Divorce is a Game, These Are the Rules: 8 Rules for Thriving Before, During, and After Divorce. We'll talk with her about this latest book, her motivations and intentions for writing it, as well as what people can learn from her experiences. Hello, Honoree. Thanks for speaking with us today. To start off with, what really motivated you when writing If Divorce is a Game, These Are the Rules?
This book in particular was inspired by my readers who had read The Successful Single Mom or The Successful Single Dad, or had read Mom and they were actually a dad. And they said, you know what, there's this space that you left. There's this great book for when I'm already through the divorce. But what do I do to get through the process of divorce effectively, and how to effectively personally? It's not even how to engage with the other person, although I talk about that too in the book. It's really how do I as a person kind of let go of that dream that I have had, or of spending my life with this person. And now we're parting. And then with that is always emotion, whether it's sadness or anger or frustration or all of them, right? How do I kind of figure out what I'm going to do with myself next and with my life next? And how am I going to figure out who I am as a person? And so I had left that gap, and I was inspired to write it because I had left that gap in the marketplace and people were asking for it. They were like, how do I do this and retain my sanity and make it less painful sooner?
Why did you use a game metaphor?
Well, any author who's writing a book wants people to notice their book. And so it was a little bit of a play on words. I know for sure that divorce is not a game, but life is not a game. And yet every part of life has rules. If you're driving, there are rules. We call them laws, but there's still rules. When we have relationships, there are rules that we live by, even if they are our own rules and we made them up. And so I wanted to do a play on words. I wanted the book to be noticed, and I wanted to be, with this book, as with all my books, a force for good. And the best way to be a force for good and to get the word out is to have something where people can remember the title and they're interested in picking up the book and seeing what it's about for them.
What do people, especially parents, need to know about divorce?
So what parents need to know in particular is that your children are half you and your ex-spouse. So while the relationship didn't work out, the child looks at it like, I love my mom and I love my dad. And so when mom says something bad about dad, the kid thinks in their mind, either consciously or unconsciously, well, I'm half dad. So if dad is this bad guy, then I must be half bad. And vice versa. Oh, your mother is this blah, 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 blah person. Gosh, my mom, I really love my mom. Maybe I'm not a good judge of people, but most importantly, I might be a bad person. So I think what parents need to remember is that the co-parenting relationship comes first, and that there are about 8 billion people on earth who can hear all about how little you think of your ex, every other person except your children. Your children need to see you demonstrate kindness and respect for your ex-spouse. And so what I used to tell my ex-husband when he was dealing with his first ex-wife, so I was at first the second wife, and so my ex-husband had a first ex-wife. Now he has 2, so we got the bonus program. But I would say to him, she is the gatekeeper to your children. So treat her as respectfully and kindly as you would treat a receptionist or a cashier. Like you don't have to be nice to her. You don't have to be friendly, but how about just cordial? How about respectful? Just because she's another person walking the planet. So if you can put a different spin on the relationship, if you can think about them in a different way. Yes, they might have hurt you. They might have done you wrong. They might have stabbed you in the back. Like, of course, I have heard everything at this point, especially writing this book. Oh, you wouldn't believe what was done to me. But if you, as a parent, you've got to really compartmentalize that and put that away. So talk about that when your kids are with that spouse. Talk about that when you're in therapy. Call your best friend from your car as you're driving around without your kids. But keep any opinion that you have of the other parent to yourself. And if your child is complaining about the other parent, and I will say this, my daughter will say that she'll say something about her father. And I will say, I can understand why you would feel that way. I validate her feelings. And let's talk about something else. Or talk to me about how you feel and get it out. And then let's have a conversation about it. But I don't leave any room, and I've not always been perfect at this, but I don't leave any room for parent bashing. Because ultimately, if I say, oh yeah, your father's a real, bad guy, then somewhere in the back of her mind, she's going, you know what? I'm half him. And so I must be a bad guy too. And we don't want that. You would never want your kids to feel bad because of something that you said. And so certainly you have to extend that to the other parent.
So how would you define thriving when it pertains to someone who's gone through a divorce? What kind of things or key signs do you look out for to know that someone is doing well after they have gone through the divorce?
You can just tell when someone stops wearing their divorce on their face. Like, I can always tell when someone is going through a divorce because they have this look about them. And I know that I've probably had that look about me as well. It's just kind of this, the weight of the world on their shoulders. I mean, a number of times I've gone up to someone and said, I can just tell you're going through something rough. And they're like, how did you know? It's like, oh, you have the divorce face, right? So what I look for is someone who starts to feel like themselves again. It's almost like getting over a really bad illness. Like if you've ever been really, really sick and then you feel really, really crappy, and then you wake up one morning and you're like, oh, I kind of feel less crappy than yesterday. And then the day after you're like, well, I'm kind of 85%. I'm getting my mojo back. I'm starting to feel more healthy. It's exactly the same thing. Like, I look for the spring in the step. What I wanted to do with this book was provide the roadmap for getting to the morning where you are starting to feel better sooner because of the steps that you can take to kind of move that along personally.
What is a divorce coach and why can one be useful?
So a divorce coach is the person that is in your life to help you create the plan for what happens now that you're a divorced person or as you are going through a divorce. The role of the divorce coach is just like the role of a coach in sports. It's to help you to learn and master the fundamentals of life now that you're creating this new life and you've got this plan, and they're there to kind of guide you into your new life. Different than the therapist role, which is to help you to heal the wounds. The therapist is very future focused. And so they will help you to define your life after divorce. So whether it's someone who has been married to someone for 5 years or 25 years, you have to define and decide what it is that you want after divorce. And so the coach's role is really to pull you into that. I actually certify divorce coaches, and they work with their clients in 100-day increments. So it's really a formula for what's the vision, what's the purpose, why do you want this new vision, and then how are you going to take the action steps to move forward in your life after, as you're going through divorce or in those first 100 days after your divorce is final.
In your opinion, what are some of the biggest roadblocks that people face while going through a divorce?
Ooh, holding on to negative emotions. That is the biggest roadblock, is holding on to that dream that they had and staying upset and frustrated by the behavior of the ex. So he did this or she did that, and so I want to talk about it, and they're processing it. Except that they're in the processing and continuing to process, they're reliving those emotions over and over and over again. So I see people get stuck. And it's funny because the main divorce coach, so the woman I have certified to certify all the divorce coaches, we were having a conversation about a client who was actually introduced to me, and I introduced her to my coach. And she said, every single conversation is, okay, and enough about him, now about you. Okay, got it. I get it. He's a jerk. Got it. Okay, now what is it that you want? What are we creating for you? It's like she's stuck in the mud and she's spinning her wheels, and then she gets a little bit of traction because the coach is saying, okay, let's go over here. But she's holding on to all of the things, and the facts don't matter. It's that she's stuck in that. And so that's the number one way people stay in their own way. That's that block that they actually put in front of themselves. It's funny because it's like they're blocked, and all they have to do is take the block and go, oop, bloop, I'm going to put it over here, and I'm going to create a plan and focus on moving forward into the future. And then once they've removed that block, it's amazing the transformation that happens.
What is the role of forgiveness in divorce, in your opinion?
Well, not forgiving someone is like drinking poison and expecting your ex to die. letting them live in your head. And so forgiveness is important because forgiveness is an interaction. If you are upsetting to me, I can be so mad I can call. I go, you wouldn't believe what Katie said in our interview. Oh my gosh, right? And you're just we just had this interview. You're not even aware of it, but it's eating away at me. It's not affecting you. Forgiveness is an interaction. The other person doesn't even have to know, especially if you actually know. You're like, oh, I'm going to ask her these questions. Oh, she's going to get upset, right? You don't, boy, I bet she's still mad about it 3 years later. And it's like, oh no, I forgave you the same day. No worries. It's all good, right? So forgiveness is actually drinking an elixir of happiness and giving yourself permission to move forward. So forgiveness and healing are the most important things for someone to do. Practice that self-care. Just recognize that everybody is doing the best that they can and forgiving them and moving on. And I will tell you that those words just rolled right off my tongue, and it's not that easy. But with some work, right? And I say this in the book, with some work on your part and some forgiveness on your part, you will actually move forward a lot faster, and you will have more of what you want sooner in your life once you allow the forgiveness to seep into your soul and let the other person go.
And to end with, how can people learn more about you and your work, as well as how to purchase some of your books?
So they can visit my website, which is coachhonoree.com, CoachHonoree.com. And they can go to Amazon for any of my books and just put in Honoree Corder, or Google Amazon author page, Honoree Corder, and all of my books will pop up.
Thank you, Honoree. We have enjoyed speaking with you here at Dad's Divorce. This was Honoree Corder. She was a best-selling author and a motivational speaker. She's written books like The Successful Single Mom, The Successful Single Dad, and If Divorce is a Game, These Are the Rules. I'm Katie Davis, online editor for Cordell Cordell and Dad's Divorce.